It's coming. Okay, now you control. Right, you can start.
Okay, sir. Life doesn't require that we do the best, only that we try our best. We, the forebearers of tomorrow, to lead our students, need to be ignited of the teacher in us. I, on behalf of Amaljodi College of Engineering, extend our heartiest welcome to all the participants to the fifth day of AICTE-sponsored STTP on Paradigm Shift in Assessment and Evaluation Practices for engineering graduates. I now invite Dr. Therese Yamina Mahesh to introduce the resource person.
Good morning, sir. Let me introduce you to the participants.
Okay, thank you.
Professor V.K. Damodaran is passionate about bringing the fruits of modern science and technology closer to the people to empower them. He did his master's at Gindi Engineering College during the period 1962 to 1964 and graduated in BSc Electrical Engineering from the University of Kerala during the period 1958 to 1962. He was professor at NIT Calicut for 19 years from 1965 to 1984 and director S&T and E Department, Government of Kerala, Trivandrum during the period 1984 to 1995. He was Director General of INCORE, promoting renewable energy worldwide during the period 2008 to 2011. The awards conferred on him include IEEE Asia Pacific Region Historical Achievement Award in 2012, IEEE 2014 Meritorious Achievement Award in Continuing Education, IEEE Region 10, that is Asia Pacific Educational Activities Award 2014. He was also past chairman of IEEE Kerala session during the year 1991. Currently, he is chairman at Center for Environment and Development, Trivandrum, and was chairman of Tech Top Team, Trivandrum. Let us listen to this esteemed professor on the topic, environment and sustainability, the need of all times. Welcome you, sir, to this session.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Therese, and distinguished participants, because I'm not talking to students now, I'm talking to teachers. So, who are in all probability more knowledgeable about these subjects in their own perspectives. Anyhow, thank you very much for inviting me to interact with these learned teachers for a short while on environment and sustainability within the framework of your STTP. And the title given is Environment and Sustainability, the Need of All Times. Means it is actually going back as well as looking forward, not only the current scenario. So I added a line more to it, why engineers should worry, because we are not having this discussion in a public gathering where multidisciplinary thoughts will actually meet and deliberate. Here we are engineers, and basically our mission, including that of mine, whatever may be the kind of excursions I had from teaching to research R&D management, governance, industry, and so many other things. Basically, I consider myself as a teacher, and you are also teachers. So from teachers' point of view, the engineers are their products, and the success or failure of one's own product is of great concern for anybody, definitely for teachers. And we seldom hear about failures of our products, but whenever somebody succeeds, even excels, from the expectation of the community or the employer or even his teacher, he will always look back or call back and say, we are here. So let me start the discussion in a very different perspective. And the first slide, I put 2 or 3 points. That is because many a time when we talk about sustainability and environment, immediate attention goes to the biggest challenge of today, which is also the biggest environment challenge of today. That's managing the climate change impacts. So, but here what I want to tell you is problems of environmental sustainability are far more than climate change issues. Climate change issues, according to me, is only a rather small portion of the environmental sustainability challenges. And why it is so is because we are all humans, and all humans are living creatures like other animals, birds, and whatever you have, whatever you can describe as living on this planet. So they are all organic. Organic means it will continue to grow as well as weaken. That means it will have ups and downs as far as growth is concerned. It might grow fast, finally go to a plateau, then come down, and we all bow out, and we are out of this nature. So this is actually the scenario. So therefore, anything, environment is after all what is surrounding us, surrounding the society, surrounding the individual. You can say the individual is surrounded by society, and the society as a whole, including the individuals which are part of them, they are actually surrounded by the environment. So any changes in environment will definitely affect society and its individual components like individual human beings. For example, we need food and water for growth or for our sustenance. If these are somehow poisoned, living beings get sick and die. So sustainability is lost. So we have to actually keep the environment poison free so that sustainability on our existence itself will not be jeopardized. So that is where human ingenuity has created technologies all along, and we are all continuing that tradition of creating newer technologies, however small it is, however big it is, to ward off such problems and to protect ourselves from any ill effects that might come from the environment or from other individuals or from certain sections of the society, whatever it is. In the holistic picture, one has to always get guarded, and for which we need science and technology as our armor. Just as a old-time warrior or a soldier will always depend upon his armor for protecting his life while fighting. We are actually waging a continuing war. So, but it is sometimes a wrong belief, especially of engineers, that technology can solve all problems. If not today, tomorrow. If not completely today, maybe completely after a few days or after some years. But anyhow, the process could be continued. But we should realize that technology is also equally capable of creating problems, while we are on our job to solve such problems that has been created in the past and that would be coming and is current, or what is expected to happen immediately after. In some cases, we can't. That is where the COVID situation has come. We are unable to do anything because we didn't expect a problem of this dimension, where we are actually totally disarmed with all the technological philosophy that we have developed does not work in this environment. Now we have to actually think and find out solutions. So next. So therefore, sustainability is an objective for every engineer, for every citizen, every administrator, every politician, any category of people. But this objective sometimes is, not sometimes, most of the time, often it is ill understood. So there are a number of definitions for sustainability, and you would have used any or many of them to explain sustainability challenges to your students, or even discussing among yourself in your smaller community within the college or the university, or even within a community, or with others who actually control us. We have to explain what we are doing and justify. Similarly, those we are actually manipulating as workers under us, subordinates under us, friends under us, our own family members, for them also we need to give some explanation. So I was actually looking at many of them, which you will find in several books and in the Wikipedia and here and there, all kinds of internationally accessible literature. And I thought it will be better to make it brief and somewhat non-subjective. And I put it as the ability to be maintained at a certain rate or level. I don't actually talk about the environmental sustainability or engineering sustainability or human sustainability or even species sustainability, such things. So for everything, the ability to be maintained at a certain rate of growth or decline or whatever it is, or that level, that is sustainability. And in engineering, it has to be ensured, or it can be ensured through few approaches. Out of it, the first one I am saying is one of the latest ones. Other things are actually traditionally, at least for almost a century, we have been practicing in gradual ascending stages. First one is LCA, or what we call the life cycle assessment approach, which engineers did not have. When I studied, there was nothing like life cycle approach. Then we have actually PPA, that is pollution prevention approach. This was something which we practiced in between for several years. Yes, it affects the many activities, engineering and technological activities affects the environment and it pollutes. And so you either pollution prevention or you abate those things. So that was actually the PPA approach. Then you have actually the DFE, that is you design itself, you pre-imagine what could be the condition. So you design for ecological improvements. Not only that this should continue sustainably due to this operation or this product being utilized. Ecology should not be maintained at the same level, but it should even be improved so that any further excesses of damage will be compensated by that. This was something, and that is what factor of safety meant in designs. Then we have DFD, design for disassembly. There are certain things when we make, you just cannot do anything. If that doesn't work, you throw away the whole thing, which is a wasteful practice. And therefore, people started designing things for disassembling so that only the damaged part need be taken out and better parts put in, or it is improved or replenished, something like that. Another thing is you find that weakness all around, and there is nothing much you can do, at least now or after some time. Then you start think about, you design for recycling. You use it for some time, then best thing is to recycle, and at least a portion of its services or the content, material content, be recovered and reused. This was the idea. But these are all actually constraints for engineers who are supposed to take the scientific principles and put it into practice. That is actually the job of engineering science. And when you go to the technology side, it is not enough if you extend those principles and devise things or products or services. You have to actually give shape to faultless performance of that idea into a working product or a easily service kind of setup. So these are constraints, and so we go on trying lifting or removing these constraints. And next, yeah, now here one of the constraints or one of the threats for sustainability currently discussed, especially I mentioned about climate change in the beginning. You look at this graph in which you have actually a number of scenarios. Right from the top, if you see, if no climate policies are accepted by major countries or most of the countries, the current global warming will actually go up to 4.2 to 4.8 degrees Celsius, which is at that stage, the sustainability of human race or even many living species would be difficult. We don't know when that will come, but by end of 2100, if the current trends are actually followed without any policies in place for controlling the climate impacts, this will be the situation. Then you find below that there is an orange one. This is we have actually some policies, current policies, which are different with different countries, but yet there is some underlying commonality in them. With all those things, if you proceed further, that is from 2010 or 15, after the Paris conference, let us say, if you proceed, this orange scenario will actually get unveiled. And then we will end up by 2100, 2.8 to 3.2 degrees Celsius. And we all know that this temperature rise is actually measured from somewhere around 1850, when industrialization is supposed to have started seriously on this planet. So this again is unacceptable because we are aiming for 2 degrees Celsius and if possible, bring it down to 1.5. So then we have actually another possibility of looking at certain pledges and targets which were actually set in Paris in 2015 December at the Climate 21st UNFCCC meeting. If they are actually followed very strictly, you are able to achieve 2.5 to 2.8 degrees Celsius and not much difference. So then we have to actually chart a possible course. How is to be discussed later. That is at 2 degrees C by 2100. You just bend the curve, pull it down and bring it. You have actually that bluish violet strip. That will achieve 2 degrees Celsius. How? We have to think later. But if you really want, and if you want to aim at 1.5, you have that green thing. And the time frame from 2020 onwards, that is correct. From now onwards till 2100, we should be doing something to achieve either one of these, which are actually acceptable to the whole world and to us as individuals. But this is possible only if you do something. Let us see what that is. Next. Yeah, here I give this arithmetic to spell tomorrow is cancelled. How do you say that tomorrow is cancelled? Tomorrow is there. Tomorrow will come. But I'll tell you why. This is actually we said from 1850 to 2100, if you really want to have 2 degrees Celsius, at least 50-50 chance of achieving that, there is actually a limit to the GHG or the greenhouse gases, what we commonly say as carbon upload, carbon dioxide, because that is the major component, almost up to 81% in some years. Then scientists have actually sat and worked out that carbon budget that you can have from 1850 to 2100 is 3010 GT, gigatons. And this table gives from 1870 onwards measurement, which started with 2.4 GT of CO2. In 2013, it was 1960. That means you have, after 2013, 1050 GT left for the period up to 2100. But scientists also tell us that even if you attempt very vigorously, by 2030, from 2015 to 2030, the ongoing processes and existing infrastructures with their behaviors and with their ecological potentials, there will be uploaded not less than 800 GT of CO2 to the atmosphere by then. So by 2030, we are left with a balance of 250 GT. This is for how many people? 200 countries at least. And for how many years? 70 years. So for 70 years, 200 countries have a budget of 250 GT of carbon dioxide. So if it is equally divided, we all will get 1 GT. Suppose some countries actually feel that India and China, being the most populous countries, they should be given a bigger share. Anybody who is sharing will only give us 5 GT each. So with 5 GT for next 70 years, what additional energy production, what additional industrial production, what additional development activities can you do for improving the well-being of the majority of the people who are still struggling to meet both ends? So if we don't bring it down and go to these lines, that is the lower two, any one of them, most preferably the green one, our tomorrow is cancelled. Maybe some of the developed countries may manage with what they have because they have amassed huge amount of energy production capability, but then their emissions still will be there and we are not going to end anywhere even at 2.8. So next, please. Yeah, this is a very interesting picture. Just have a look at it. On the left side, this is actually about biodiversity loss from the day this aspect has been recorded by scientists and people who govern. And all those things have been collected. In particular, research that has been conducted during the past several years. They have been actually studied, put together and studied, analyzed by a team of scientists and technical content writers. And they have come up with a report. That entire report is 1005 pages, but the sum and substance of that report is in this single diagram. That is the beauty of this diagram. And on the left side, that gray tower, just like our tower of our desktop computer, there are certain indirect drivers. And the next one, something like a TV, old TV screen at the time of switching on, they are the direct drivers, and 6 individual drivers are shown, and each color, vertical color strip there shows the percentage, because the whole rectangular strip is 100. What percentage is contributed by each one of them? First one is actually land or sea use changes. Like that, various things, I'll come to that later. And the third one is where this is enacted, and terrestrial, freshwater, and marine, 3 terrains where this is actually happening. And on the right-hand side, these are actually measures of the biodiversity loss or the indication of what is going to happen immediate. So let us go into the next one, which actually shows a little bit more details about this one. Please, next, please. Yeah, here I give drivers. Indirect drivers are actually, first one is demographic and socio-cultural. Second one is economic and technological. Why I'm saying that their engineers have got a major role. Institutions and governance, they have also role. Here also, engineers and technologists have a major role. Then conflicts and epidemics. All the small bickerings and the great wars that are going on and that had actually happened. And epidemics like the 1918 Spanish flu, cholera, the smallpox, and SARS, which of course ended with few countries, mainly in SARS. In fact, I was in China living and working at that time when the SARS hit China. Then we had a small show of Nipah, which could be contained very quickly. And now COVID has actually spread all over the world, and we yet do not know how to drive it out. So these have immense impact. Then direct drivers, they are actually, as I said, land and sea use change, land use change and sea use change. Direct exploitation, because many a time we mine and take a lot of things, we cut trees, and a lot of things we extract, even sand you collect from the beach. Then climate change, then pollution, invasive alien species, because we all know about African pile, or what you call the Salvinia, and so many other species of and the leeches that have actually come from other countries, and all kinds of things. Actually, there is actually possibility of invasion, and they also directly drive such biodiversity loss. And there are many other smaller reasons. So this is how they analyzed it. And the zones I have mentioned: terrestrial, freshwater, and marine. And next, please. So what is this study about is 15,000 research papers in peer-reviewed journals over the past 50 years related to biodiversity and biodiversity loss. They were actually taken, analyzed, studied in depth by 145 experts and 310 content writers, or what we call the authors, sitting for 3 years. And they brought out this 1,500-page report. And this is done by whom? We all know about IPCC's work, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This is actually a similar panel called Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. It is called IPBES. And their report actually published just before the 2015 climate conference was bit of a controversy, that IPCC and people who support that very strongly did not want another diversion to that line of thinking, and therefore saying that this report is unwanted. But when we discuss about environment and sustainability, I think the overall, or what you call the general feeling that we get by looking at this should be an indicator or a guide for us as to how we could actually go about. See, look at this. Natural ecosystems loss up to now has been 47%, almost half gone. Species extinction risk is 25%. Some are already extinct, and some are on the verge of extinction, and some more will be driven to that. And you find that is 25%. Then ecological communities. There are a number of ecological communities. Some are local, some are regional, some are global. And you find 23%, almost 1/4 again, is threatened. Biomass and species abundance. That has actually been brought down by 82%, not to 82%, but brought down by 82%. And nature for indigenous people, that is like Adivasis. For example, Brazil, in the Amazon forest, the native people are now suffering because of the huge fire that has been waging in Brazil, and the government is unable to do anything. Australia, there was a huge, this one, where we find that all the slow-moving animals and insects, they died in millions and billions, whereas birds actually flew away, except a few got burned. And other fast-moving animals, they either jumped out or ran away, and they had also escaped from a species disaster. So this for indigenous people also is a very, very important thing, which many a time we don't actually think. And many of our engineering is never with a focus on jumping into action if such a scenario comes. That is why we are unable to quench these fires. So this is an important thing when we think about sustainability. We should think. Next one, please. Yeah. Now, sustainable, we can say engineering sustainability, and we also, to a small extent, we teach this one. Because when in the olden days in engineering, there was nothing like economics. Economics was for all the what you call those who don't get selected for medicine, engineering, and other things, or even science courses. They go for all that kind of thing, not required. But later, it was appreciated that we should have what is called as engineering economics. And so we were actually trying to correlate our work with economic activities, economics as a theory, and economics as something which is existing and playing out in our day-to-day lives. So like this, now there is actually need for consideration, and therefore we have actually come to what is called as green engineering. This is actually one practice that we are trying to do. Anything, not only green engineering, we have now green economics. We have actually a number of things. Anything and everything can be green chemistry is there, green physics is there, everything is there. But green engineering, as I have said, some of these drivers, direct drivers for biodiversity loss, or that means a major pinch to the nature's ability to survive, can be counteracted with green engineering practices. So, but how do you characterize them, or what features we can have? I have actually tried to list 5 or 6 which are considered important. Of course, you also know about this one, but just for our discussion base, I have taken 6 of them. One is actually, if it is a green engineering, it will improve the products and services, improvements in products and services. Then the resource consumption is actually reduced. That means resource consumption, you actually tend to take it towards total or near sustainable level. Why I am telling is, currently, that means this is actually a figure taken 10 years back, that every one of us on this earth, on average, our per capita annual consumption of materials taken out from nature is equal to 10.5 tons. Each one, the poorest one who doesn't practically consume anything, plus the most luxuriant life or most wasteful industry and most showy building, all those things, right? So there is actually a need for conserving the resources so that it will remain for some. If we continue with this 10.5 pattern for a few more years, the estimation is that by 2050, for then 2051 onwards, your supply will have to come from another planet, not from Earth. So that is the gravity of the situation. So green engineering aims at reducing this, and we have to always devise innovations to bring about this situation. And unwanted, resources are used more efficiently also. This resource consumption reduction is different from resources used more efficiently. That is, efficient use only avoids waste. Other thing is only your rate of consumption is controlled. Here, even with that rate of consumption, if you are able to use it or consume it more efficiently, the same job will be done with lesser material, or in the process of converting, the kind of waste or the losses that are occurring could be minimized, and therefore some resource savings will achieve from that. And the fourth one is unwanted or unusable materials are either refused or recycled. That is, certain unusable materials you don't actually take into account at all. You don't go anywhere near that. But many a time what we do is, without knowing that they are unusable or unwanted, we try and then convert them into waste and again add it to the waste stream. So the best thing will be, your wisdom should actually refuse to accept that as a basic construction material. Then, or you should be able to find some technologies by which they are recycled and used either partly or fully. Then another important thing is comfort level of utilization is maximized. This why I am telling is, of course, in the CII Godrej building in Hyderabad, the first LEED diamond rated building in India, there I have gone there several times. I used to always visit during the evening time this place, when the workers are all, or the office workers and others actually leave the building. And if you look at their faces, you will find that they don't look tired at all at the end of the day. Same thing, Energy Management Center here in Trivandrum has got a green building. It is only gold rated. But there you find that not only that it is green, less energy used, locally more energy is produced, and 3 times the energy consumed by the building is actually pumped back to the KCB grid. All those things are there, and less material used. But more important is the comfort of sitting and attending lectures or giving lectures, or sitting in that auditorium and seeing or listening, or even walking around and doing work there. You find every employee and every visitor feels more comfortable. This is actually, this comfort level escalation is an important aspect of green engineering. Then it should also require minimal maintenance and replacement that should be over its entire lifetime. Because after 4 or 5 years, everything goes well. Then you find that everything starts collapsing or starts showing an immense weakness. Then you have to have major repairs, which may be a patchwork thing and which may consume more energy and all that. So this, its lifetime should be reasonably visualized. And during that period, there should not be need for any costly or energy involved or material involved maintenance or replacement. So these 6 I would say.
నేను అదే ప్లాన్ లో ఉన్నా, అదే సరిపోద్ది వీళ్ళిద్దరికి. మన ఇద్దరం కొంచెం రైస్ కొనుక్కుంటే మళ్ళీ మీ ఇద్దరు కూడా తిన్నారా?
What is this? Yeah, so please go over to the next slide. Sustainability and resilience are at risk. Sustainability itself is actually showing some state of steadiness, as I have said, the ability to maintain particular level. But sustainability should also have some flexibility and resilience against future events or future happenings or other things are signs of its ability to withstand sudden invasions. So Why I say that they are at risk is, let us take COVID. Apart from, of course, the three things that it has done is, apart from taking lives, several lakhs of people have actually died in several countries. And more than that, in all these countries, enormous amount of livelihoods, jobs, which may be a daily work, or maybe a weekly assignment, or it may be a contract assignment for a few days, or it may be jobs, or it may be a hotel business where people come and eat. If they cannot actually come or they are restricted, my hotel business is completely gone. My source of raising an income or getting some gains for me to live and probably earn something, that is lost. So we find that livelihood have been almost annihilated, and education is derailed, that you all know, and I need not tell you. And we have to actually put these things back to rail. And so we have to now go to a new normal where these three major impacts we will have to actually set right. So the major and the foremost thing, of course, protecting the life is something which every country and every governments are trying to do in their own way. So that is there. I am not saying it should not be there. But as far as jobs and education are concerned, I would say that we have to actually create new jobs or existing jobs in a different package of doing, of giving. That is, you cannot actually give a job as he did previously. So jobs are to be, in effect, created. And in some cases, new jobs are to be created if you want to actually follow these COVID norms, and which will at least continue for a few more years, even if you have the vaccine and all that kind of thing. Because nobody will have the confidence of congregating as closely as we did in the past. It will always be with reservation. Nobody will be confident of receiving your own close relatives at home without reservation. So you will always put some kind of barriers, some kind of practices. If you are always shaking hand and embracing and all that thing, hereafter you will go back to the Indian, or at least come to the Indian way of saying namaste. So these are all new ways. So you find that similarly, industries and businesses, they have to be built back to create decent and safe jobs. Because the same way you made a nut and bolt and put it up into a box and send it for sale won't work tomorrow. There are many, many such things. You are all capable of visualizing such a thing. I just only want to remind that this is where a total reconstruction is required. Something like plastic surgery. Then, unrecognizably transformed education. I would say that tomorrow when the classes restart, the students who come to your classes are far different from the boys and girls who were actually in your class before the COVID closure. You will find that. In your own homes, you would see your own children or grandchildren, how they have actually changed for the good as well as for the bad. I won't say that that change is always good. This is where, again, we will have to actually transform education back into something which is manageable. And because the appreciation of the student on the need to study and the need to study in a particular fashion, need to study from particular sources, and need to study with particular tools, that is subject to change hereafter. And unless you manage this change, you control the change management, the education will be out of your hands. So the challenge to teachers are more than real, but it is still enacting The change is there. Now you are actually giving classes online without seeing the student's face. Maybe you will see it on the screen. But that face-to-face, when a student stands before you, ask a doubt, and you tell, or he plays mischief, and you just have a look at him. Just have a look at him. He takes the lesson and what you have actually tried to convey. But that thing you cannot do. So you find that number of changes are required, and such changes are currently there. And there is actually a lot of behavioral change among the students. And so they will tomorrow demand a different kind of education. So I think it is actually appropriate that we discuss this kind of topics in this kind of an STTP, or what you call the faculty development exercise, is very meaningful, because this is the time we should actually think about this one and get prepared before the classrooms are again open to the students and for all of us to interact. So next, please. Yeah, the technology can solve, but how? That's the question. See, post-COVID-19, sustainable engineering solution might embrace the following in solving the kind of problems that have actually surfaced. Tip of the iceberg has been shown by me as examples over there. You can think more about that one and visualize other scenarios. So one thing is, if you really want to innovate or solve it, you have to study what the new normal is. It is not yet settled. Currently, this is only a kind of a transition and seeing whether this will work. And we all know that this is not going to work, at least in education. In many other things, this is not the final thing that we can have. It won't be economic, it won't be efficient, it won't be safe, but this is a kind of a makeshift one. And we have to make this makeshift into something, or shift it into something that can make our future. So we have to study what that normal is and then innovate. Then certain tools and certain materials you may reuse. Certain things you may remodel. You may have to remodel. And many of our current tools, whether in industry, farming, or other places, may not be adequate to meet with the then safety concerns, then productivity concerns, and then time constraints. So we may have to retool as well. This is again an engineering job. That is why I'm speaking about that here. Then what are the partners? Of course, whatever we may say, robots will be there. Drones you may have to use much more, because there are a lot of advantages in using drones in conditions such as COVID or similar, more severe or equal incidents that could happen in future. And sensors have got a big role, especially non-contact sensors have a big role. This was something we had sensors thought about not with this intention, but in future engineering and technology, the non-contact sensors, distance sensors, and sensors that can even interpret will have some meaning. Then electric vehicles, they have a lot of advantage over the present fossil fuel based one, because the basic element of its control limitations as well as the pollution aspect, and the oil is actually taken out from the earth or nature, and therefore reducing that actually brings a lot of advantages. Therefore EVs from that point of view will be more acceptable. And autonomous vehicles also will actually ensure more safety because of other threats, not on the road safety, which can be incorporated with use of some of the newer technologies. Then new materials we will have to use. That's again thing, because several materials that we are using now may have certain disadvantages in the kind of safety and security norms that we are going to insist in future. Even otherwise, some are actually in the extinct category, or they are going to be almost getting lost. Then what are the kinds of practices that we may have to go? Precision farming has to be one. We cannot actually farm as in the past. Even the farmer who is not educated, who does not know anything about precision farming, he will require a solution like this to be put into his hand and told into his ears. Then solar desalination, because water is actually an entity or a particular element that is actually going to be terribly scarce in the future. And in this, desalination technologies are there, but solar desalination goes very well or one step ahead in the sustainable engineering. Then renewable hydrogen, because renewable hydrogen as well as charging for EVs, battery charging, unless it is a renewable source, then none of this transition will be meaningful. Then we were always finding economy in the past, and a lot of theories were there, especially mechanical engineers among you who had been talking about mass production and its benefits, and the economists also were talking about the great virtues of mass production. All will have to now change to production by the masses. And globalizing, that you produce in bulk in one place and spread it all over the globe and make your profit or make your money or make your living by selling it anywhere, will not go as it used to be in the past in the future. Therefore, you have to actually produce locally. I'm not saying that the mass production and mass distribution is not possible, but that will be limited to very few products, and majority of the items will have to be locally produced in smaller quantities, and yet they have to be made more economical. And there should be economical, there should be actually sustainable, there should be all points of view. It should be the order of the day by making that changes. So production by the masses will have to be conceived well and designed and carried out. And Internet of Things is gradually coming. In communication, we have actually internet now, but there will be more internets of communication within the communication area itself. And internet of energy also is likely to come, and maybe some more, I don't know. But looking ahead, we can say that several internets will have to be depended upon if we are to work safe and secure and economic and efficient and sustainable. We have to go in for some of those things. Then what are the kinds of tools? Because I'm definitely an old fossil engineer because I learned engineering and stopped studying more than 50, 55, 58 years back. So tools will be, first of all, artificial intelligence will have a major role. Data analytics will have a major role. Blockchain will have a major role. Nanotechnology in almost all fields, energy, health, dentistry, so many areas. You will find even agriculture, nanotechnology will have a lot of things. And that is also embedded with having more with less. That is actually Buckminster Fuller's, that is 20th century, when he was actually a youth, when he was almost in his 40s, he mentioned this, that we can do more with less. That was actually one of the conservation thoughts that emerged during that period. Well, 5G with much more changes will be there, and many more things I don't know. I think, does that end my first presentation? Yeah. So can we take some 5 or 6 minutes, or you can announce, Dr. Therese, but everybody would need a cup of coffee. And the next presentation, what I will do is, any questions or the discussion points, please put that in the chat box. And I think the organizers will actually pass it on to me. And I will set apart about half an hour for our discussion. And within the next half an hour, I'll give 2 case studies of how we can actually look for sustainability and apply our present knowledge into solving those things. 2 things which I have actually, as an international consultant for UN, I have done in some other countries, as well as in our own country. I'll briefly explain one of the things. I will not explain so much. I'll also show some few pictures, and then last half an hour or 25 minutes we'll utilize for the discussion, and I think that would be fine. So let us have a break of 5 minutes, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So now it's 11. It's going to be 11. So we'll take. We'll join back at 11:05.
Yeah, right. Thank you. We need not switch off this. I think we'll keep it this.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine. Thank you.
So shall we resume? So shall we
Yeah,
start?
yeah,
Sir?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, sir. So are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, fine. Well, I hope the participants are back.
So,
Yeah, I think majority of them are there.
yes, sir.
Yeah, so these are actually, as I have said, 2 case studies. I'll take for each one something like 10 minutes and only very brief explanations. Next slide. Yeah, these are actually, these 2 case studies are challenges, because so it's not connected with COVID or the present day thing. The then challenges which was thrown to me as a international consultant on energy and environment by UN, and it was posed to UN by a country, and it was posed to the country leadership by the people, stakeholders, so something like that. To make it brief, there is a division in Kenya. That is, Kenya is a country well known and one of the fast developing African countries after they are getting freedom. And olden days, we heard quite about Kenyatta, who was actually the first president of that native president of that country. And Nairobi is the capital, which again is well known to many. And in Nairobi city, from the city center, around 20 kilometers away, there are actually 4 abattoirs, that is slaughterhouses. And that place is called Dagoretti. This Dagoretti is a division. Even for election, this is Dagoretti is a constituency. And so these both boundaries are same. Anyhow, this Dagoretti has an area of 38.7 square kilometer. Speciality of Dagoretti is that the entire Nairobi city's meat requirements are supplied by the slaughterhouses. That means they do it for a rent, a kind of a small fee. Anybody can bring and get the animal slaughtered and processed the way the country's rule says. And the meat is actually taken away by retailers and all those things. And this place has got only a population of 240,000, that is 1999 census. It would have been at the time when I was given this problem in 2008, I remember. It could have been some 3 lakhs. And as I said, a cluster of 4 abattoirs. And land, water, and air pollution points source. From these 4 slaughterhouses, waste actually flow into the nearby river, which is called Kabuti River. Kabuti is a tributary to the Nairobi River. And Nairobi city's water supply is actually pumped from Nairobi River. So this waste actually started increasing and getting very poorly environmental conditioned. That means the pollution is worst. The drinking water started getting problems and illness. So somebody went to the Nairobi High Court, and High Court ordered that no, you cannot play with the drinking water supply of Nairobi city, where millions actually live. So stop all these abattoirs. Okay, that was the time. Then without meat, what can African do? Without meat, nothing moves in Africa, and that is their principal meat. So they started rushing, and luckily for them, UNEP, or the United Nations Environment Program, has its world headquarters in Nairobi itself. And there is a country office of UNEP also. Again, in the same Gigiri Hill complex, where I have been for several years, I think almost 15 years, I have been going in and going out occasionally. So they went and complained there. So this is there is a technology required. So they immediately called the head of UNIDO there, Kenya country. So here are the industry people, technology people, give us technology. Okay, so they just said, oh, technology. So they said, okay, we have actually 2 consultants who can actually do this. Because they had some telephonic conversation with me as well as a friend of mine in Germany called Walter Danner. He is actually the person who invented the best biogas plant called the HPTC, or the high performance temperature controlled biogas plants. So among our discussion with the country director of UNIDO Kenya, Walter Danner in Germany, and myself here in Trivandrum, we came up with a solution of converting this waste into biogas, and biogas converted into electricity, and thereby the pollution can be avoided and some energy can be. This was the kind of solution or the innovation we just said. Till then, nobody ever thought that this slaughterhouse waste can be converted easily and economically into electricity and utilized and render the whole waste harmless. So this was actually the solution. And so government of Kenya immediately jumped at it and said, yes, please somehow give it us. Otherwise, we will, High Court order is going to come. We may have to close this. Okay. Then I was given a 15 days job there to go and with one hand, left hand completely blocking my breathing because the smell is so horrid. But I had to go around all these dirty areas and then find out how it comes and what happens, everything. So I just did a study. So go to the next one. Yeah, and these 4 slaughterhouses together, every day slaughters on the average 360 cattle and about 100 either goats or sheep or some other small animals, and occasionally maybe 1 camel or something like that. This is a daily thing. And that Dagrati area alone, 25,000 people in 5,000 homes are living around. In just 1 kilometer radius, there were 4,000 people living. And there is a floating population of 10,000 persons every day. They are actually the people who bring the cattle there. They call pastoralists there. Then traders who buy and sell not only meat, the hides, and so many other things. And some people, they bring the salt for the processing of the leather, and like that. So there are some service personnel, and then animal care persons, because animals will have to come and wait for a day or 2. So somebody will have to give them green grass and all that kind of thing, water. And so all these people, so the local population alone is not the thing. And there are 3,000 workers in the abattoir, and majority of them commute daily. And there are 27 slums in this division alone. That is a 1 electoral constituency, 27 slums. So you can actually think of the living conditions there and how it adds to the pollution in the river as well as in the air. And land, of course, is there. That is the first thing. Next, please. Yeah. So I need not explain to you this technology and all. Waste is converted to biogas by the high performance one. Because the temperature is maintained constant at our body temperature, which is the body temperature of the bacteria also. Many a time we make them work at 18 degrees or 20 degrees, and therefore they are inefficient or sometimes they die. Just as we would in such a condition without naked if you are actually remaining in 15 degrees and 18 degrees. So by maintaining the temperature, bacteria could actually work better and produce more gas and continuous gas stream, etc. That is why it is called high performance. That is what my friend Walter Danner invented. So this was actually 2008. We gave a proposal that if all the waste from these slaughterhouses could be combined together and put it into a huge biogas plant, maybe 2 or 3 units, but then in a cluster. And this gas being used in very able engine generators, you can produce a little bit more of half a megawatt of electricity. And around 0.3 to 0.35 megawatt of power is all that is required for these slaughterhouses, because their slaughterhouses will not sell meat immediately after cutting. It has to be kept 24 hours and 8 degrees Celsius in chambers, so that other harmful bacteria will actually die. Then only it should be. That is, even though it is a poor country, in Africa, many countries, such rules are there. And all the workers, you know, they have to have white pants, white shirts, white cap, and white shoes, etc. while working. And when they leave the work, they will have to leave that there, and somebody will actually come and wash these things and make things ready. And this is where we started this innovation. But initially, we have to convince people somebody should invest. These are private slaughterhouses, and government cannot actually put so much money to solve all these problems. So we said 15 kilowatt biogas engine generator. We will start as a demo and see how the environment becomes cleaner. And then you can put up bigger things. Entire calculation was given, entire costing was given, entire specification for ordering was given, everything. So we did the 15 kilowatt one, and I think it was completed in 2010, because the approval itself took 1 year, 2008 September or so we started. And then after the approval, money has to be secured, somebody, and with all that, anyhow, November 11th, 2010, this was actually, there was an open house to explain to other country people, UN people, media people, international, Al Jazeera, BBC, and so many people actually came there. And this very attractive things from a dirty waste dump, how the area is clean and green, etc. was actually shown. The details of which during discussion, if you are interested, how we have actually systematically gone and utilized every bit of this waste. Even the slurry from the biogas plant, that could be used as manure for agriculture. And the sometimes slurry water is there, which you cannot actually carry out. So this was actually pumped to a grass field nearby, so that the grass grown could be given to the waiting animals. So that will grow very fast, and the people need not actually go collecting grass for these animals. So that's also the local people, they have a lot of kinds of. So even to that minute aspect we have actually done. It was actually a place where vultures actually fly when the waste actually start flowing in batches. Once actually my ear should have been cut with a vulture flying very close to my shoulder. That air velocity itself was actually giving trembles to my earlobes. Luckily nothing happened. So this is there. So we had actually given a value of the entire waste is actually converted into biogas, which can be used for heating as well or other purposes, also for producing power, and then biofertilizer is produced there. All win-win. And other benefits of lighting up the slums. With this little electricity, LED lanterns could be given there, and their problem of lighting could be solved. Promoting cottage industries. With little electricity given there around, many families who could not do any other work, they could actually have some jobs. Leisure and savings to the HIV widows involved in daily laundering work of slaughterhouse, because this is actually laundered by them. During rainy season, they have to work hard to get these clothes dry, ironed, and kept for next day morning, because they get a fee from the people, workers, who pay and take a new iron thing. What we did is this engine exhaust heat was actually taken into a shed, and there we asked them to put all the clothes so that it will get dried in half an hour. So they did not actually wait for hours and sit late in the night to iron this and keep it ready by next month. So like that, number of additional benefits came. Next, please. Yeah, this is just that left-hand top picture is that 15 kilowatts plant, how the waste actually come, and it is actually initially the dung and other waste from this one. This comes into this pit, and that is immediately removed, and actually it flows into the biogas chamber and all that kind of thing. And the gas is stored in, you find right-hand bottom, 3-ply plastic kind of cylinders, which will grow full when the gas is full. When gas is actually used by come down, so you don't need big silos and things for that. And the next one on the left hand side bottom is actually just demonstrating how a small biogas plant digester could be utilized. Then the one on the top right is actually a kind of our KVAC model biogas plants run in very small ones done in Kerala. There is actually enormous amount of difference in cost, functionality, performance, efficiency, everything. So just want to show that. Next picture, please. Yeah. So this next is actually energy kiosk, or something like a small shop, you know, the little sheep, what you have actually this chewing pan and all those things, or chocolates, etc. you get from a kiosk. Somebody is sitting there and deliver so many small things. Like that, we had a energy kiosk where utilizing renewable energy technologies like this waste to energy, like little solar PV, like if there is some wind power, like there is any other renewable source, even there is a micro hydro potential, that alone, that will also be taken, whatever may be the capacity. This will all be taken to this kiosk, and there will be one man operating, connecting these things. And that will operate number of devices. One is actually LED charging. The other one is actually battery charging, because many people need battery. Then there is what you call mobile charging, for which they have to actually travel several kilometers where there is no bus service. There are only, they call it mutata or something like that. It's a small vans, you know, with jam-packed people, and they will charge for everything from wherever you enter, wherever you get down, 120 shillings they will collect. So like that. So this was a whole day affair for them to weekly, once or twice, go and get the mobile charges. Of course, they will always collect 2 or 3 from the neighborhood and go. So, but all these things could be done very regularly at a small cost in the village itself. So, lot of things. Plus, I will also show you some more pictures. Next, pass on. This is the economics, just to say that this was actually cheaper than what the traditional one. This is actually LED charging platforms where everybody could leave weekly, one day, their thing. This they are actually lithium-ion battery-based one, so weekly once only they need charge. 30 hours it will work. Then the mobile charging section. This one, right-hand side top, is actually a welding shop, because 10 kilowatts of electricity if you produce in a village, all these battery charging and all that kind of thing will require only 1.5 kilowatt power if this is staggered and distributed for all the 6 or 7 days. The remaining 8 kilowatts you can utilize for a powered carpentry bench, welding shop, which is actually very much required there. This is actually a community ICT center where documentation, computer printing, and word processing, all those things. So you have actually a wonderful center there. All the villages can, and the students there, they can use, instead of going to towns, all these things. So like this number of industries, local fruits were actually converted into fruit juice or fruit pulp and salt, so that they won't go waste and they can get better price later from the town. Next pictures. Yeah, this is when UN and ambassador evaluation team came to find out how effective, how this wonder has been happening. So I was also there at that time. Then on the right hand side is actually we created a 10 kilowatt micro hydro scheme. This was actually the power channel or the water is actually going, and finally through a pipe it enters the small powerhouse. We didn't actually wait for a turbine. What we did is we purchased a pump and used it as a turbine, PAT technology, with some slight change. And we induction motor we converted into a generator, so that within 3 months from the local market you can either buy a Chinese pump set or an Indian thing. These are the cheapest things there. It's available always. So we utilized this one. Within 6 months, we constructed no big construction of dams or anything, small barracks to stabilize the head. And this is what on the right hand side you will see. This is not the finished one. The channel alone I have shown. Then this is where they cultivate sunflower seeds. And because they cannot actually convert it into oil, they used to sell it to middlemen at throwaway prices. And those poor farmers are actually in hunger. So we taught them a thing, a small machine where you give all these things, you will get the oil of that one. Just as we give coconuts and get coconut oil from an oil mill here. And the right hand side is actually the latest technology China has actually used. This is in Xi'an. In Beijing, there is a much bigger one because the city was highly polluted. What they did is this tower will actually attract the polluted air, and through several layers of filters and other processes, it will be completely purified and let out. So the urban air could be recycled into a pure one by applying simple technologies that are not actually not cutting edge or new technologies. So this is just to say that there is actually solutions from technologies. All that we have to find is, next please. Yeah, this is a model. This is about the, what I said, the sunflower seed. You have actually the agriculture shown on the left hand side. These seeds are taken and they are actually processed into oil. Sometimes you have palm trees, especially in Tanzania. This is actually near Tanganyika Lake, that picture I have taken. There, women actually tried to put palm nuts, ripe palm nuts into a small drum-like thing, tar drum-like thing. They put 2 wooden bars, and 4 of them actually go on turning with some blades below. It cannot actually crush the whole thing, only the outer shell or the what you call the fiber is actually squeezed, and the nut is not at all broken, and they call it palm oil. So we showed them little electricity, you can actually change all these things. And from the waste, you can produce biogas and electricity. So it becomes a self-supporting thing. And this electricity could be used for number of productive applications, for lighting and for many other purposes. So we created a complete system where from the agriculture of that village, their products, we actually increase their income, their employment also. When they found that this is actually a profitable thing, they started increasing their farming. Otherwise, they don't actually do real full-time farming. And these sunflower oil could be little branded by a cooperative society or something like that and put up in the nearby supermarkets and then nearby towns and things like that. That was one model. So next one. Next, please. Yeah, this is another model that we created. It's that on the left-hand side, you find an approach to green energy application in rural areas. See, if you have electricity from, as I have said, micro hydro, have it connected to a small, simple grid, or in a kiosk, you bring all that electricity together, anaerobic digestion, biogas. So from that also you produce electricity and bring there. The biomass gasification, that if you can actually burn or gasify with less oxygen, then gasification, small gasifiers will actually, again, that gas can be used for producing electricity. This can be put up in villages without much cost, much effort. If there is wind potential, especially in Africa, many areas, there is a lot of wind potential. You can 3 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts generators you can put up. Solar, and all will not work all the time, but some of these things can be used all the time, so that a minimal energy is available in all seasons. So you and plant oil, that we call it SVO, straight vegetable oil technology, that I have said, either from the palm oil or from the sunflower oil. So these are all sources, and small technologies produce electricity and bring that as DC and charge a battery, or Some of them you produce as AC and directly distribute it to, and for which you don't actually establish long grid lines or distribution lines and all. You set up small industries around this energy kiosk. Let people come there and work. One thing that we did is, Africans actually, because there is a lot of lack of water and lack of soap, men actually volunteer to shave their heads, whereas women actually braid it, and because that is their beauty and attraction points. So they don't ask their women to also go bald unless they have no other way. But men do this, and this is actually done by somebody with a very crude knife, and many a time the surface is cut, and for a few days it remains there. So what we did is, cheap electric shavers were taken, and this electricity, if you give a small plug to a small cubicle, there a fellow can actually go on doing dozens of head shaving every day and earn his income, and the people also will get it their head shaved very quickly. And on the other side, you have actually one plan is kerosene replacement, because many of the villages there, electricity access, even when 2010 we were doing this, Kenya had only 25% access. 2001, when I went to Zambia, the electricity access of Zambia was 4%. So you find that this is all in that range. Zimbabwe was also in a very, very bad scenario. So you find that small and medium scale enterprises could be started there. Community development centers could be started with, like, you can even have satellite television coming there to the village. You can also have some video-based cinema entertainment houses, for which small fees can be collected, and a fellow could do all this kind of thing. And all this kind of internet facility could be extended, so the students and others will get benefited. Also farmers, e-governance could be tried, so the panchayat-like systems could be linked with data and so many other things, and number of productive activities I have said. So this is actually linked everything by the kiosk. The energy comes to the kiosk actually gives in a limited area, so that the cost is limited. Even though the energy production is high cost, still it is economical for the user, and in quality as well as in providing newer and newer services, that is really fantastic. Next, please. I think that is the end of the, yeah. Now let us discuss. So the whole issue is, here, of course, these are only few. There are many other challenging issues thrown to us as an international consultant. So with whatever you know and whatever you can get in that area, you cannot actually think of importing something and all that kind of thing and make changes there. And unless you make changes within a few months or few weeks, they won't actually believe in all your great technologies. So it should be locally specific, appropriate to that locality, as far as possible, utilizing resources from that village or from the accessible nearby regions, except maybe some things can come from outside. But major thing and the important thing is that local people should be able to maintain and service it, and if required, replicate such small units. If their demand increases for that village, they can think of another 10 kW module. So we made it into a module so that they can actually replicate this kind of thing. So this was the logic, and this was the approach that we took, so that local people are indirectly trained by involving them at the concept stage itself. When we start thinking, we find out what are the resources and what we are going. We discuss with them. This is what will go. And the environmental benefit of taking all these waste and putting it into a biogas plant is enormous. And how many hundreds of places we have actually done in several countries of Africa. I have actually traveled from the whole of west to east and from north to south, from desert to this kind of places and all. So you find that for any situation, we can actually find solutions with whatever technology is available. The link of appropriateness, efficiency, and affordability, etc., comes from the ingenuity of applying these technologies and taking the people together in arriving at a solution. Here I stop, and you can actually get any of these points clarified or any new aspects inquired.
So we have some questions.
Yeah, please.
Shall I read that out? First question, sir. What is smart and green campus? Will it help educational institutions to improve their performance?
Yeah, let me pick on the second word. A green campus, if it is green by its definition, what we mean by green, it is not greenery alone. Their waste production should be minimum. Their water use should be minimum. Their waste management should be appropriate, and their good physical exercise facilities should be there, and so many other things. So that is a green campus. In fact, I recently do green auditing for a number of what you call the what is that, NAC accredited, or those who aspire for accreditation. Then, so the green is definitely there. And smart is, again, according to our current definition, we talk about smartness with little autonomous activities, little high-tech activities, little artificial intelligence, so that certain decisions are taken by the system, not with the what you call instantaneous or what you call temporal involvement of or interaction of human beings. But I would say smartness is something much simpler and much broader than this. For that, I would actually advise you to go to an article that has actually come in. Of course, if you Google, you will get it. Harvard Business Review. The great management guru, the Indian, Dr. C.K. Prahalad, and our former DG of CSIR and the Innovation Council National Chair, Dr. Mishelkar, they have actually developed a theory called Gandhian innovation. And there is also a book called Yugad, that is how rural innovations, small things, in pottery, in so many other things, in wheel making, in applying wheels, and in water purifying, and so many other things, number of small innovations happen in our Indian villages. And if you go to the Himalayan villages, you will find even some mechanical engineering, fantastic mechanical engineering for centuries being practiced there. Some of them are even 100 years old. Still they are running, very inefficient, making croaking noise, all that kind of thing. And now India government is actually trying to improve. So I would say that for a particular situation like that, what is smart is not all the electronics and all that. For example, Nepal had a landslide a few years back. At that time, IEEE Kerala immediately sent a small team there to find out how best we can help. We also sent them 100 LED lamps. LED lamps means with this lanterns with the lithium-ion battery thing, so that daily charging is not required. And it can even be charged from solar source. And when we discussed that, one of their major problems, even otherwise, was that there is actually a water source and a small tank. From this, water is actually taken and for several purposes. Now a big power plant is being constructed there. But the problem of the village is sometimes the ice melt and suddenly the water level rises. Sometimes there may be heavy rains and the flash water level rise occurs. And this actually within few hours actually flowed down, and it wipes out certain villages, homes and people. And it is a great disaster because they are not warned about this one. So all that they asked was, can you actually have a simple device to indicate to us that the level is actually going above the, let us say, 2/3 level or something like that. Then our engineers said that is so simple. We can have a thing and it can actually give you a warning, so that immediately you can actually, people can, and the property can be moved to safer places, and the lot of human loss, etc. So it is again the question of application, but therefore smart and green campus will definitely be a better place for education. And also those students will be better innovators. I find Dr. A.P. Jayaraman in the list. Dr. Jayaraman.
So nice and amazing.
Yeah. After so many years, even
Yes, great. Simply great.
Great. Anyhow, we'll be in touch later. Come on. If there are other questions, please do
Yes,
come
sir.
on.
The second question is whether usage of hydrogen enhanced CNG keeps automobile emission control as per existing norms.
No, this it is improper for me to answer. This is a mechanical engineer. If anybody who is an expert on this subject area, of course, general answer I can give, but it will be appropriate for somebody else to answer this question. If you can limit to kind of linking innovation with sustainability and also engineering with innovation, that is probably the main thread of my talk. So it is better that I restrict my responses to those questions.
Okay, sir. White automobile LED headlamps are very intense and troublesome to the crossing person. Why can't it be switched with golden yellow LEDs?
Yeah, this is where policies of the government should interact with the automobile manufacturers. Even I know several students, when we were actually doing this Tech Top Innovation Contest nationally for the engineering colleges, I think we did it for 13 years or 14 years. And a number of innovations used to come to avoid head-on collisions. Students actually, similarly, the driver getting sleep, how to prevent the driver from slot. So you find that unless every vehicle is actually fitted with that kind of a system, the whole exercise goes meaningless. So that is where policy should actually firmly come into place. And unless the company is told that if you don't follow this, your vehicle will not actually touch our roads. That should be firm thing. And that you cannot actually, one state alone cannot do it. For example, if you are talking about India, this is actually a thing which I have also felt several times, even though I don't drive, even sitting in the back seat, I find it very, very much annoying and even damaging to your eyesight and your line of thinking and all. When you are actually talking and thinking about something, this bright headlight actually completely upset your status of your mind. So these are actually interventions that are required, where even the use of technologies for efficiency's sake has been improperly applied. That also there should be a check.
So please let us know more about the Rotaller model.
Rotaller model, yeah. The Rotaller model is actually, as I have said earlier, the inefficiency and occasional loss of performance of biogas plants everywhere. Because first time I saw biogas plants working in very, very different environment was 1992, 93, when I was a UN fellow in China. At that time, I went there for studying how small hydropower is actually very cheap and but that they are able to implement number of, because at that time they built micro hydro and some small hydro, 87,000 projects. In fact, that is what raised my interest in visiting China. Because those days, if you write a letter in English, you won't get any response whatsoever. So when I got a UN fellowship, they said you can go to any country, learn anything you want, and help the UN with some of your recommendations, which we will try to push it to the applicable countries. So I just said, please give me 10 days in China. But they gave me 1.5 months to study about how they were able to, and because in IEEE journal, of those days, I think, yeah, IEEE, by the time it was IEEE itself, not AIE, there was an article in which it said China is the only country having a rural electrical grid. I said, what nonsense these people are talking. Rural grid. We know about a state grid or a national grid. How can you think of a rural grid? So I thought there is something absurd about this one. And I was not wondering about how much energy is produced in 87,000 micro hydro projects. I was wondering, how could somebody manage to organize 87,000 projects? Because it requires little work, how small it is, on the ground, with materials, with little machines, everything. So the organization of it itself is enormously challenging. So that was my, so I just wanted to go and see some of those things. At that time, I heard through some media, international media, as well as in India, that China had built 7 million biogas plants, whereas we had only 30,000 or 40,000. So I wasn't. So one day I luckily got a professor in the Biogas and Solar Energy Institute of that state where I was actually staying. He traveled with me for my visits. And he knew a little bit of English. So while car is going, I just wanted to ask something. I just asked a professor, his name was Professor Ho. I said, Professor Ho, how come you could actually build 7 million biogas plants? So he was asking, who told you? Who told you? 3 times he asked me in halting English, who told you? I thought this guy has not understood. I said, forget about who told you. You tell me, how could you do it? Then he comes, Professor, we have built 14 million biogas plants. So his wonder was, why you are talking about 7? Then I just asked, will you have biogas plant working in this winter? That was actually December, January, hard winter. He said, yes, why not? And I said, I won't believe. Then he said, you see, visit anything, because this is a snowing area now. Why can't we see? I said, yes, I'm ready. But you should not stop at a place where you say. I will say, somewhere around, if there is a biogas plant, I would like to see, because I don't want to be cheated. So I said, when he said, okay, we'll get down and ask somebody, then they said, just by the roadside itself, there is a farmer called Mao. And so what he was doing was, he had a biogas plant, but the Chinese biogas plants are normally underground with a small dome-like thing only projecting outside. The idea is that the heat in the soil will actually keep this warm even during winter. Then it is only the surface, which may be a concreted global structure, a small curvature there, that they will actually divide into something like small, what you call square plots with cement edges or kind of lines. And in that, they will put a dry, what you call hay, that is the rice straw, dried one, or some thermocol thing which they got while buying the fan or something like that. All those things they will put there above this one, so that snowing from top will also not allow cold to go inside. I said, this is a fantastic idea. So I went inside. I don't want to extend it. So those villagers, actually, they knew that if you can actually keep the temperature not going below a particular level, its performance will not be interrupted. So this idea was actually otherwise learned by an agricultural engineer called Walter Danner in Germany, who lives in a village closer to what I call Hanover. He found out that the failure of biogas plants is due to non-maintenance of temperature, its living temperature. That is 36.8 for us, because the same bacteria is in our stomach, in cow's stomach. So in the biogas plant also, they should get that temperature. Here what happens, even during normal season till around 10, 11 o'clock, our temperature will not be above 18 degrees. So then these bacteria not efficient. That is one thing. Second thing, what he found out is there are actually 4 basic chemical processes in this. One is actually the hydrolysis, where the biological material actually deteriorate and become a very energy containing fluid or liquid. Then you have actually what is called as what is that, hydrogenesis, acetogenesis, then methanogenesis and things like that. These 4 stages are there. Chemistry people will be able to tell you. Even I can tell you if I had actually referred to that. But these 4 processes are not going at the same speed. So if you put everything into one jar and shake, that is what we are doing with our KVIC model, that floating drum kind of thing, then the process will not be efficient. That is just as you say that the strength of a chain is the strength of the weakest link. Like that, the slowest operations efficiency only you will get. So what he did is he did the hydrolysis part separately, which can even be occasionally need not be anaerobic. It can be even aerobic. You can open it and clean bones and fish bones and other things, or some small sticks or anything. Once this has decayed, you can actually clean that if you have actually a kind of a perforated plate over which all these things fold. And so these are all simple devices, we can do it. So by doing that, this liquid alone, you can actually, according to the further processes, you can actually continue and the efficiency can be maximized. And the advantage is that 30% more gas yield and steady gas flow, if you can. So when Africa, when we wanted to do this kind of thing, you cannot actually think of maintaining perfect temperature by using electrical heating and things like that, as they do in Germany. For even power plants, they have actually 1.5 megawatts, 3 megawatts biogas plants giving electricity with maybe 0.5 megawatt unit, simple individual units. So in that, what we did is, of course, Walter also helped us while we were actually flying together. In the flight, we just asked, come on, by the time we get down at this particular village or the nearby town, you should actually come up with a solution of avoiding your electrical thing and using something local. So he immediately came, oh, BKD, will let us have a thing. Why not we have some solar hot water? I said, fine. So you drip solar hot water into it and just have a small thermostatic control, which anybody can have it. It is not a big issue. Then when the temperature is approaching the level that you want, you just cut it off. If it goes below a particular thing, your temperature sensor should actually again restart this process of dripping. And the solar hot water, it will have a cylinder which keeps this hot water, insulated cylinder. And so this can be a very economic solution for introducing this one. And the yield will be much higher, economic benefits also better. And it just never fails, because what a steady steam required for a generator is possible. And this is actually tried originally in a place called in Germany, and that is how it got the name Rotaler. So if you go to what you call Google and search for this one, you will get. Similarly, the Dagoretti things which I mentioned, you go to Google and search, you will have same thing, which is actually put by Walter Dana's company, because he was also involved in it, and some of the materials and the walls and precision walls and this 3-ply, etc., he supplied it from Germany. So they put it as an advertisement. But in fact, yesterday only I saw that it is there for a long time. I was actually searching in my old computer hard drive and all that. So all these informations are available, and this is advantage. Basically, these two things, if you maintain, your biogas plant will never fail and its performance will be enormously high. This I have actually tried hundreds of plants. I have tried in several countries, and I can now shape for this particular thing.
So can I ask you something? Hello?
Please.
So is it right that politics, especially politics in Kerala, hurdle in the path of this sustainable development?
No, I don't think it's anything like that. Why I say is, if you can see, the failure is on the part of scientists and engineers, technologists. You know, all professionals, we don't know how to communicate. If you speak to a politician and convince him, because there are situations where if two parties are actually competing on the basis of certain aspect of use of this technology, they may not, because if they accept this, other fellow will take it as an advantage. There are some issues like that about examples I don't want to give. There is not enough time also. Therefore, what I'm saying is, if we are able to convince them properly, I don't think any politician, that is convincing means not saying that your technology is great. He is only interested, any politician or any ruler of any country, any technology, even if it is God-given, he will not accept it for his country or his region unless it generates employment, unless it doesn't annihilate the job opportunities. These are some of the, in every politics, this is the thing. They cannot actually take a thing for which people lose job or it will be too costly for them. So what we have to do is, you should tell them that these are the benefits of this technology in terms of economic terms, in terms of their governance easiness, because in certain cases, there is an easiness in governance. For example, why the municipal and corporation people are accepting this waste, what you call processing at source, Urabeta Samskaranam, or what you call the management at source management, because it reduces the burden and the investment and cost required on the part of civic bodies in doing this. If you can actually reduce the amount of waste going into this common civil collection setup, the whole cost structure comes down and whole headache comes down. That is why now, in fact, I am also a part of a research team working in Kochi for producing electricity by pyrolytic gasification process. We have actually, and the gasification plant is already ready, almost 10 crores already spent. Now another 6 crores is required for putting up the generator and some meters and also gas cleaning devices. Otherwise, totally pollution free, which can even take in plastics, pharmaceutical waste. Pharmaceutical waste you cannot put in land, you cannot put in water, you cannot put in air. But many people do not know that. Pharmaceutical factories, where do they put that balanced powder and balanced liquid and all those things? They just mix with something else. I don't think many people are actually solving it the right way. So all these things are possible in this technology. But unless you convince the politician and the local government about its merits, economic merits, convenience, and how society is going to benefit, if you can convince them, I don't think any politician anywhere will stand against. That is how here itself we said resource mapping, which was started when I was, at that time I was the director of science and technology, and the Science Studies Center was actually the first focus. Then the whole thing moved as a Panchayati Raj activity. Why they accepted it? Because they found out a lot of merit in it. People are able to convince them. So the issue is not politicians standing in the way, not our job of not convincing them appropriately. This is my view on that. Anything more?
Okay, sir. Yeah, one more thing, sir. Actually, if you convince the politicians, they will go for that. One of the political party will accept that thing, and when that time is over, the next party comes. Say, for example, the street lights, the solar street lights that are planted in many of our highways. The initial stage, by spending plenty crore rupees, we have installed that thing. Our government have installed that thing. But after the particular team or the political party gets turned over, or the new people come, they are not maintaining that particular thing.
No, this happens for some other reason. This is again the sustainability angle that we were telling, another aspect of it. You know how this kind of newer streetlights LED thing was actually opposed politically? The reason was, see, LED lamps have a light dissemination characteristics. Electrical engineers actually used to learn that in earlier years. Now I don't know. That is every lamp, if it is an electric bulb or tungsten filament bulb or a tube light, around it there is a, so it can throw light in certain area to certain depth or certain distance. And we did all the post and the lamp luminaire fitting at that height where your ordinary incandescent bulbs or sodium vapor lamp, all those things would still cast sufficient lux on the road surface and where the drivers are. Now what we did is, we used a new device which is better, it saves energy, everything. But you did not actually change the level at which the lamp should be fixed. So you find it sometimes become an obstruction for the drivers, and it sometimes sufficient light is not there, or if the range is limited and there is instead of overlap, there is actually gaps in between each area. So you will find dark areas in between. So all these things create problems. So this is actually the application actually failed to take into account the ground conditions. This is again, I say, any project should be first prepared and implemented in consultation with the people. If this consultation is there, projects will not fail. There is no time, otherwise I will tell you about that book called Putting People First, published by Oxford University Press in the beginning of early 80s. When the World Bank funded their first 65 projects, they found out that only 3 had succeeded, 62 failed miserably. So they appointed a commission of economists to find out what happened. They said nothing wrong with the economics. Then they appointed a committee of planners. They went and said everything has gone according to plan, nothing wrong. But the World Bank was not convinced. They immediately appointed a committee of sociologists. They went round to many of these failed as well as the 3 successful project sites. Their findings and the 800 and odd pages book is 3 projects which were successful had consultation with the people right from the inception, or that is the concept stage to the completion. And they were also part of implementing that, at least in small ways. So they owned the project and they started correcting whenever there was a deviation. Whereas in the other places, especially the miserably failed one, there was absolutely no consultation with the beneficiaries at any stage whatsoever. Because the requirement of the people, by the time 5 or 6 years it takes for approving a project, and finally a World Bank loan comes and all that kind of thing, and finally it comes to the ground, there will be more than 5 years gap. And by the time people's requirements have changed, the ground realities have changed. They would have changed their agriculture in that area, or they would have thought of another house to construct. They won't wait till the project comes. So this is actually where the consultation with the people and interaction with them at all stages. This is something that we have to actually learn in our innovations, as well as how an innovation will be accepted, how a project will be successful is depending upon how far you are able to equate yourself with the community's temporal and spatial status.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the session, for clearly defining sustainability and how it can be ensured in engineering and the threats for sustainability. I believe that your session would have surely given some thought provocation to the teachers handling the subject too. Sir, sharing your experiences and knowledge as case studies were really helping the participants to understand the real logic of sustainability. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you. Thank you all for the patient listening. I hope, but any of you want to have a dialogue further, you please give them my email ID, vkd@IEEE.org.
Sure, sir.
I will always be glad to answer even individual requests on any issue, irrespective of whether I know it or not. I'll try to learn from somebody else and reach you the source from where you can get the right information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
So I leave.
Yes. If